Today's actual recording date is September 21st, 2020. That happens to be a Monday and the holiday of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So a happy New Year and Day of Atonement to all our Jewish viewers, and wellness to all, including all of our other viewers. Today's topic is the coronavirus in West Hartford, or hang on. Sorry about that, telephone call. And changing the subject, that happens to me, my new, the words are so many I can hardly keep them straight. Samsung Note 20 5 Ultra, Note 20 Ultra 5G. And I'm very pleased with it. The picture is much clearer. Everything is much clearer. The voice reception is much better when you want to dictate anything. That's my review of that. Also, Tom's, TOM''S, is an electronics review site, and they gave it very high remarks. I'm certain that the iPhone 12 Pro will be a similar match. I almost switched. If the iPhone 12 had been out, I probably would have switched. That's it for the electronics of this. So now let's talk about the coronavirus. Now, first of all, for any of you who are interested, I've written a rather extensive paper that includes some very technical information, which you can simply skip over. The most recent important information I've come across has to do with the role of platelets. People have been using anticoagulants, and it turns out that heparin is helpful because it is an antiplatelet agent. Platelets are about clotting in the blood. And of course, everybody's talking about heart attacks, strokes, myocarditis, pulmonary emboli, and simple clotting in the blood vessels. One of the blood tests that is used to predict survival is the D-dimer test. And the D-dimer test is about clotting actually happening and resolving. No one has talked about fibrin split products, but that usually goes hand in hand with the D-dimer. There are a bunch of other things that are also relevant, but as I was saying, all of this is discussed at the website www.thepmc, Preventive Medicine Center.org, www.thepmc.org. So if you go there, you'll find the summary coronavirus update. And it's got recent information up through, I think, September 8th is the last time I updated it. The new information is coming in the next couple of days, and that new information is also going to talk about bradykinin. Now, everybody knows that there is a kind of pneumonia that occurs in people who have the more serious versions of this coronavirus infection. Most people have little to no problem with the coronavirus. Everybody thinks of it as so serious, and that's because a large number of people are adversely affected, but it's only a small percentage. It's about 20%. So 80% of people have the common cold or nothing. Turns out my granddaughter, who goes to the University of Southern California, caught it and was completely asymptomatic. She had to quarantine for 14 days. She'll be back in classes. I presume they're running classes, but had no symptoms, no whatever. That is the usual, especially for young people. She's college age. So most people do very well with the coronavirus. I do think the media is very misleading in how they present things in terms of there being so many millions of cases. And yes, there are these many millions of cases, but most of them, as I've already said, at least 80% are quite benign. Now, 20% are important and end up in the hospital, but we were going to talk about the pneumonia. That's the main problem area for the coronavirus. So what happens is there is this chemical that is broken down by a particular enzyme, the one that the coronavirus grabs hold of, the ACE2, ACE number 2, ACE2 enzyme. And that enzyme, when inactivated, which is what the coronavirus does by grabbing hold of it, also is responsible for breaking down bradykinin. Now, what's so important about bradykinin? Bradykinin causes things to leak in the body. So the congestion that you see in the lungs on X-ray has to do with fluid leaking in. Now, there are several other chemicals that tend to come along with it, like hyaluronic acid, which is a little bit of a sponge. So not only does the bradykinin cause the leakage, but then the hyaluronic acid gets into the air spaces, draws water, and it is that water that obstructs the lung function, creating a gel in the air sacs so that oxygen cannot be properly exchanged. So you have the bradykinin causing leakage, the hyaluronic leaks in, creates this hydrogel, which you might think of, well, like a jelly. And that obstructs normal respiration, which is what creates the shortness of breath and low oxygen called desaturation. Now, the people who are most adversely affected by this are over, I forget what the exact cutoff age is, but I think it's over the age of 55. So if you're over the age of 55, you should be careful, washing your hands often. If you go out into the public, you should be wearing a mask. I'm a firm believer in that. And you may say, well, what about the president? The president has not been so great in this, but he's done other things that I give him congratulations for. The problem I have is with the professionals, the people who should have known. I have problems with Redfield of the CDC, who keeps changing things. Hahn, head of the FDA, and most egregious has been Fauci, who has vacillated back and forth and always has a little negativity that he has to stick in. I'm not saying everybody ought to be cheerleaders out there, but gee, in the midst of a pandemic, we sort of need a little help and an uplift, and Fauci could add that instead of always bringing up caution this and negative that and so on. Bottom line is, I assume that they're trying to do a good job. It's just their methods are really quite questionable. All right, getting back to West Hartford and coronavirus. It's important that you understand what causes that pneumonia. It's leakage of fluid caused by a chemical called bradykinin. Brady meaning slow, kinin means sort of mover. And that allows hyaluronic acid to leak into the air spaces of the lungs, which then collects water like a jello, a thick jelly. It's called a hydrogel, and that's what creates the very abnormal picture in the X-ray. I do think that things are actually pretty good. Only 18 of the 50 states are having increasing cases. The other, how many is that? 18, 33 are down quite a bit. Things have improved dramatically. The new treatments that have come along, remdesivir and Decadron or prednisone. The prednisone has to be given in the proper dosage in relationship to the Decadron dosage that was studied. The Decadron dosage was 6 milligrams a day, I believe, for 10 days. That is a really high dose, let me tell you. But on the other hand, if you are short of breath and in need of help, it has been shown to significantly save lives. Going back to the bradykinin idea, there are medications which inhibit the action of bradykinin and as a result prevent the pneumonia, and those drugs have been shown in small studies to be very helpful in getting people to improve. As a matter of fact, it was an extremely small study, but the improvement was dramatic. Once again, this is discussed in the paper, the summary coronavirus update at the website www.thepmc.org. Now, there are a whole host of risk factors besides age, and that is the presence of high blood pressure. I continuously astound my patients when I tell them that at the 95% level, high blood pressure is curable. And that is a true statement. 95% of high blood pressure is completely curable with no medication. No, you can't cure it with medication. You can treat it with medication and get down to the values that you're supposed to get to, but you can cure it naturally. And that has to do with reducing alcohol to 4 drinks a week or less, to reduce salt significantly. And I make the joke, but I think it's true. Restaurant eating is almost always high salt. So what I make the joke is the only thing you can get in a restaurant is hurt. That's not absolutely true, but it's essentially true. By the way, there is a new vegan restaurant, and that is the healthiest diet. The healthiest diet is, so to speak, brown rice, vegetables, beans, fruit, nuts, and seeds. And then if you want something like wild caught fish, you could have that once, maybe twice a week. Well, how many meals a week are there? 3 meals a day, 7 days a week. The 7 times 3 is 21. So 2 of 21 meals a week should be in the organic, unprocessed, whole foods direction, which will help immunity too. Now let's talk about helping immunity. What sort of natural things can you do to kick things up? All right, I have a little shopping list, and that shopping list goes something like this. Zinc sulfate or gluconate, 50 milligrams. You don't have to remember the number. It sort of only comes in one dosage. And this is for adults, and this is what I tell my patients. Everything I say is an invitation to consider. I make no specific recommendations on this site or to the public in general, but on the other hand, I'm telling you how I treat my patients. So I tell my patients to obtain zinc sulfate and selenium. The dose of selenium turns out to be about 200, but that's micrograms, not milligrams. And vitamin D, 5,000 units, and vitamin C, 1,000 to 3,000 milligrams. And again, you don't have to remember this. This is what they come in. It's not like vitamin C comes in units or vitamin D comes in micrograms. They only come in 1 unit. So if you remembered the numbers, vitamin C 1 to 3,000, zinc 50, selenium 200, D3 5,000. And then I always say, give the body a break. That's what I tell all my patients about any supplement. Only take it 5 days a week. And by the way, when I treat high blood pressure, I don't tell my patients to take their medicines every day. I say if your blood pressure is below 125 on the top number and 80 on the bottom number, it has to be below both numbers, then you can skip your blood pressure medication that day. Now, any number of people are just going to have a hissy fit over the fact that I say you can skip your high blood pressure medication because that medicine is going to help your kidneys and it's going to help your heart. And it also has adverse effects. So we are much too much in the area of opinion, but we always have been in the much too much in the areas of opinion. So that's what I tell my patients. And those are the guidelines that I use. Has to be below both numbers. For instance, if the blood pressure were 110 over 90, because 90 is above 80, you'd have to take the blood pressure medication. Or if it were 140 over 70, again, you'd have to take it because the 140 is above the 125. So it has to be both numbers. Below 125 and below 80 is where I tell my patients that they can skip their blood pressure medication. There are exceptions to that, and that is the finesse of being a physician. You have to understand when the rules are to be adhered to and when the rules can be broken. By the way, I sort of apologize for that little hazy spot in the center of the screen, but Let's see if I move over here. Is that a little better? Then I have a little glare on my glasses. Oh my. All right, so high blood pressure is related to diet, meaning salt. It's related to simply being overweight. It's related to alcohol. And rarely there are other conditions that are responsible for the development of high blood pressure. Remember, I said high blood pressure is 95% curable. So high blood pressure is one, diabetes is another. The simple way I say it is to understand it is sugar reduces the immune function of the immune cells. And it's sort of like sugar is sort of alcohol to the immune cells. So what am I saying? I'm saying it sedates them, it knocks them out, it makes them less functional. So curing diabetes, which is also 95% curable, I did not say treatable, I said curable. 95% of diabetes is simply due to overweight. And you may say, well, what constitutes overweight? Overweight is when you look down at your tummy and you cannot see abdominal clear lines of definition and demarcation. That's the absolute rule. Don't pay attention to BMI. I didn't say you shouldn't have a good BMI. Don't pay attention to body fat. I didn't say you shouldn't have a good percent body fat. But the answer is be lean and trim. Now, lean maybe goes too far. Be trim to the point where you can look down at your tummy and see where the muscles meet the muscles. Now, that is what we call a high bar. That's hard to do. That takes a combination of diet and exercise and so on. And most people don't do that. We still are in an obesity epidemic. So what's really important is to try to move in a particular direction. On my website, you might get an idea of how to diet. It's not a diet that I put out for your public consumption. It's something for you to discuss with your physician. It is an invitation to consider. But I have one called Typical Weight Loss Diet, where I discuss breakfast, lunch, dinner. And what this diet is not only low calorie, but it is the healthiest version of a weight reduction diet with large amounts of food. In other words, the berries in the almond milk with 4 walnuts as a cereal for breakfast, or you could make that into a smoothie by adding the almond milk, the berries, some Olivia's spring mix. That's my favorite spring mix, Olivia's spring mix, triple washed, organic, and to me, it's the best mixture. You may say all spring mixes are the same. Not to me. But it's not like I really would say one is better. I just happen to like Olivia's better. And I sort of suspect it is better. But anyhow, so you put some of the greens of the spring mix in your blender, along with the tons of blueberries, the almond milk, and then here you could throw in a little pomegranate juice, an ounce or two. Again, the 4 walnuts, enough water so it's thin. A lot of people don't like smoothies because they are too thick, and I'm one of those people. So as a result, I say put in enough water so it's thinner. And don't put any ice in. People go around drinking ice in their smoothies, and that sort of cuts down on their ability to really drink the whole thing. Other people will argue, no, it doesn't affect me at all, or yes, it helps me along. Look, I'm telling you what I think. You can tell others what you think, and I'm only being a little bit humorous. This is my TV show, so I get to tell you what I recommend and so on. Now, so that's berries, spring mix, pomegranate juice. By the way, I like the Palm Wonderful pomegranate juice. The fact that it's refrigerated to me shows me that it's a little on the fresh side. Lord knows how long the other pomegranate juice has been sitting on the shelf. So I do like the Palm Wonderful pomegranate juice. I am not advertising you. I'm not advertising here. I'm telling you what I like. So, and then the 4 walnuts and the water. Now, what to have for lunchtime? Lunchtime, I tell my patients, cook vegetables in vegetable soups And if a salad does not make you hungry, then you can have a salad too. But no eggs, fish, chicken, cheese in that salad. You can have olive oil. You can have high-end vinegars like Fini, F-I-N-I. That's my favorite, relatively inexpensive. Yes, it's expensive, but it's not dollars expensive. And it lasts a long time. So you can use, and that Fini vinegar can flavor so many different things. So you have cooked vegetables, you have vegetable soups, you can pour the Fini vinegar and the olive oil over the cooked vegetables. Then you could even chop up or grate some nuts and throw them over your cooked vegetables to give that little crunch that you're looking for. And you can have huge amounts of this. When I talked about breakfast, you can have huge amounts of the berries so that they are filling. You can have huge amounts of the Olivia spring mix and huge amounts of those smoothies. Now, the walnuts or almonds or pecans or Brazil nuts have to be limited. So you can't have as many nuts as you want. Now, like I said, you can chop up the nuts and put those over the cooked vegetables or even in the vegetable soup, and it really gives it an extra excellent dimension. Also at that lunchtime, you might have some chickpeas. I prefer the chickpeas and soups from Trader Joe's. The ones at Whole Foods are really, it's hard to find the low sodium ones, although Whole Foods does carry the McDougall soups, and the McDougall soups are low sodium. But at Trader Joe's, they have low sodium beans, they have low sodium soups. And by low sodium, what do I mean? I mean 12% or less per serving per container. So the sodium rule is 12%. The blood pressure rule is less than 125 over 80. Now, so breakfast and lunch, and like I said, you could have the chickpeas with a little curry powder on them. You could roast them. And then dinner time is pretty much the same thing with cooked vegetables, vegetable soup. This time, if you want a salad, you can have it. I'm spending too much time on weight reduction here, but weight reduction is like overweight is the commonest disease. That overweight, acne, and cavities are the lowest, are the highest frequency disorders in the American healthcare system. So, and then dinner time, you use lentils instead of the chickpeas, and you could cut up an apple and part of an orange and throw it in a glass with some orange juice, and that can be your dessert. And that's what you eat 19 of 21 meals a week. Now, if you're a twice-a-day eater, then 7 times 2 is 14. So 12 of the 14 meals would be like that. And then the other 2 would be the wild-caught fish or the free-range chicken and so on. So overweight, high blood pressure, and diabetes are the main predisposing factors. Now, as I already mentioned, you can help the immune system along with the selenium, with the vitamin C, with the vitamin D, and with the zinc, which, by the way, brings me back to the medication program that has been argued back and forth. Let me say it this way. 30% of American physicians are using the hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, or doxycycline and zinc regimen. 30%. The people who are in the academic positions, the federal position, the state positions argue against this and say there's no proof, and they say they have all kinds of studies. There are all kinds of studies and insights that support the use of that combination. And it really gets down to, you may say it shouldn't, but it gets down to what does your doctor believe? What do I believe? And what do the, quote, other side believe? And they believe their data supports their position of don't use that combination. And I believe the data supports.
5 minutes. Sorry.
I heard it. I was just told I have 5 more minutes. And I am a believer in the hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, zinc combination. Now, the website that I told you about, if you just Google my name, H. Robert Silverstein, MD, you'll find a link. The link takes you directly to the website. Right there on the home page on the right-hand side is the summary coronavirus update. And that has virtually all of this information. Now, the information about platelets and the information about bradykinin are not there because those are hot off the presses in just the last 3 days, and I have to enter that. So I'll do that sometime this week, and then that will be there. But you will find plenty of other reading, including discussions of diet, including discussions of supplements, medications, what's being done with regard to vaccines, which I believe is coming by about October 15th. I understand the politics of that may interfere. So in West Hartford, just think about keeping your hands clean. I agree with the rule of wearing a mask when you go into a restaurant, go in or leave. And of course, the wait staff should be wearing a mask. And when they wear a mask, it should be pulled up to the bridge of the nose and then pinched at that location. The best masks are the N95, N as in nose, N95. Those are the most effective at filtering out the virus. I do believe those can be wiped down like with Clorox wipes. If you wipe it down with vinegar, and again, don't soak it, but if you wipe it down with vinegar, that's not going to be as effective as the Clorox wipes, which are more effective. By the way, you know, Trump got in so much trouble when he talked about putting Clorox, using Clorox or UV light, and those are actually being looked at in not the fashion that he discussed it, but he didn't discuss a specific version. I'm not supporting what Trump says. I'm not disagreeing with what Trump says. I think the things he needs to say are to be taken seriously. You can like him or dislike him as you want, but you can't hold him responsible for things that he didn't say or that where he was correct and others argued with it. That's the concept of even-handedness. I think it's important to be polite. This cancel culture is ridiculous, and I believe all of us should stand up. I was reading some articles today, which fortunately we've not had the crime issues, but this statement caught my attention. If Black Lives mattered to Black Lives Matter, they'd be tearing down crack houses instead of burning buildings in cities. And again, I know that's a little bit harsh, but on the other hand, there is a truth to that. Let them do something that really has some value. In addition, crime in the inner city needs to be addressed by Black Lives Matter if they care about Black lives. So here's wishing everybody well. We have just a minute or so. We have 1 minute to go. And I want to go over it again, that high blood pressure is curable and high blood pressure predisposes to the coronavirus infection. Age predisposes to the coronavirus infection. Overweight predisposes to the coronavirus infection. Diabetes predisposes to the coronavirus infection. If I were you and got the coronavirus, I would take the combination of hydroxychloroquine, azithromycin, and zinc. And on a daily basis, I do think that you should be taking vitamin D 5,000, vitamin C 1 to 3,000, zinc 50 milligrams, selenium 200 micrograms, and all those supplements 5 days a week or so. All right, that's it. Good day and God bless you all. And we'll see you next time. H. Robert Silverstein, MD, for the Preventive Medicine Center and West Hartford Cable Access TV.